Well, happening right now, we are in week 5 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. It is underway again this morning. Our Dr. Phil actually talked to the Daily Mail, and Dr. Phil is questioning whether the jury has been presented with enough evidence to reasonably expect them to find a legal basis to convict Diddy, and predicting the judge may be tempted to essentially throw the case out of court. Meanwhile, while that is developing, Diddy is once again asking the judge to declare mistrial after the prosecution claimed, after he claimed that the prosecutors presented false evidence when they said he dangled a woman from a balcony in Los Angeles in 2016. Combs' lawyers answered back saying they can prove he was in New York City at the time, and the woman that made that claim committed perjury on the witness stand. The judge says he will pick up the mistrial motion tomorrow, so we're watching for that. Plus, Jane is back on the stand right now, in fact, giving incredibly graphic testimony. On Friday, she told the jury about her birthday in 2023 when she was made to have sex with 3 different men in addition to Diddy. The prosecutor asking why, with Jane responding, quote, "I don't know. It had become so routine." We want to get right to Ron Chapman. He's a federal defense attorney, author of Truth and Persuasion in the Digital Revolution, and host of the Wall podcast. Good morning to you. Thank you for being with us this morning. You know, Diddy's legal team now claiming that Mia committed perjury on the witness stand, and that is why they are asking for this mistrial. Do you think the judge is going to grant it?
Well, I don't think the judge is going to grant it, but I think it's a good request, and it's one that you have to make. Prosecutors are prohibited, absolutely prohibited, from presenting false testimony, and I imagine Diddy's defense team would have already shown the prosecutors that he was somewhere else at that time, meaning they shouldn't have put that information on the stand if they in fact knew. Now, the burden to prove mistrial here by the defense is something that's going to be difficult, because the judge can always, as he has done in this trial already, instruct the jury not to consider that testimony. So likely denied, but there will be an instruction to the jury. All
right, we'll be watching for that. Let's talk about Jane. Jane is back on the stand for another full day of direct examination, testifying that Diddy paid her $10,000 a month rent and that he reminded her often that he was paying her rent. She says it made her feel obligated to perform in these hotel nights. Why does it matter that money played a role in her decision to stay with him, and what charge are they attaching to this particular claim?
So the prosecutor is using this to try to prove the RICO conspiracy, basically that there was money from the organization used in order to keep these people involved in the sex plot that Diddy had. But here's the problem. We've got to look at agency here, which I've been talking about in relation to this case quite a bit. It's just awfully strange that somebody says he paid my rent and therefore I was pressured to do something. That's not at all something that we would think would make someone guilty of a federal offense, offering to pay rent and therefore somebody feeling obligated. No, instead you need force and coercion, and this is just not rising to the level of the type of force we would need to see in order to convict under that RICO charge.
So here's my question to you. Has anything stood out to you about her testimony so far, or any of the people that we've seen? Does anything stand out to you like, oh, that's a good, they're building the case here, or do you feel like the prosecution is really lacking?
Well, I think that the case is fundamentally flawed because it came from the proposition that you can collect all of these disparate acts related to Diddy and add them all up. If some of these things were true, like the arson related to Kid Cudi, like dangling somebody over a balcony, the false things that we've already heard about, sure, absolutely. I think that that would be enough to convict. But the problem is every time they've gone into that problematic territory, the arson case or this balcony issue, you start to see that falls apart very quickly. And what we have left is Diddy engaged in some strange behavior, but didn't rise to the level of federal offense. I think the prosecution is really struggling, and they've got to come out with something better.
What do you anticipate we're going to see from this point forward, with that being said?
Well, the prosecution has already hinted at closing the case a little early, and I think that that comes from several of their witnesses really having a difficult time seeing other witnesses get beat up on the witness stand quite a bit. So I see that they're probably not going to have a ton left in their case that's going to be groundbreaking or compelling. So I would imagine they would wrap it up. And then we're going to see a very vigorous defense case showing Diddy's businesses, the sort of empire that he created and all of the legitimate purposes behind them, perhaps even a few artists journalists that he'd sort of made would come forward and talk about the fact that they got record deals and were successful within Diddy's empire and didn't have to engage in anything like this. They need to show that these people chose to engage in it and weren't forced, or there was no coercion. That's what I would expect from the defense team.
All right. Well, we are going to continue to watch it. Ron, thank you so much for giving us your insight this morning. Good to see you. Joe?
Thank you.